Hey guys, Moms Against Medical Bullying. So I was thinking the other day about authority and this kind of like the pseudo authority that creating monopolies that monopolies create, this pseudo authority, like the American Medical Association, this allopathic type medicine that took over. They did it purposely. This was a campaign, a takeover campaign. Everyone, like, that's pretty much general knowledge. Everyone knows this. They call it Rockefeller medicine, right? Because they monopolized medicine, and with that monopoly comes this pseudo authority. And it made me realize that, this authority is created to keep people in the dark, to keep people in deception, or to deceive people. That's the purpose of this type of authority. Just like back in the day when the Catholic Church said that nobody, I didn't read this for myself, but I heard that when the Bible started being translated into other translations, that wasn't allowed. And people suffered for that, to be able to do that. Because why? The Catholic Church, I guess they wanted to be the authority on God, right? The authority. And so people were in the dark, people were deceived and everything. And yeah, they wanted to hide the light of the gospel. So, just like in any other area, I feel like where there is an authority and monopoly created, it is to keep people deceived. Just like with outer space, none of us can go to outer space. We are not in that organization. Most of us are not in that cult, in that organization, to be able to do such a thing, right? So we're in the dark. We have to believe the authorities that have been set up in that realm. So they can say anything. And, the people, I've heard that the people who even work for those organizations don't even know the truth because of something called I can't even say it. All right, never mind. I'm not going to say it. For some reason, my tongue is getting all twisted up. Okay, I'm done trying. So, they're in different departments. So, authority and monopolies are set up to keep us in the dark and to keep us deceived. That's basically the conclusion I've come to. Unless it's, the government was supposed to be set up to do one thing, to just, guard our freedoms and rights. I guess. Probably ignorant about that too. I mean, that's the reason we're told, right? But anyhow, I wanted to talk about something in reference to the mask wearing and the business owners using that in order to call trespassing. So I compare this situation, which I've said this before on my channel, but I compare it to what's going on right now is segregation. Obviously, it's not racial segregation, but it is a type of segregation. Isn't all segregation banned? It should be. So it is segregation because they're separating people. They're saying these people can come in and these people have to stay out. That is separating. That is segregation. The mask signs on the doors are segregation. They're saying if you don't have this, you may not come in. You may not have access to this public accommodation. What is so hard about that? I don't understand why it is that lawyers don't want to fight on this premise. It's segregation. Segregation is the action or state of setting someone or something apart from other people or things, or being set apart. The enforced separation, this says different racial groups, but we can say of different groups of people. So it's a separation of people, segregation, okay? Obviously, what went on in the 60s and before that, or whatever, was racial segregation. So segregation based on the color of your skin. So there can be different types of segregation. This article here on this website says Bell versus Maryland, 1964. And guess what? When segregation happened, those people and even judges had reasons why they thought that segregation should exist, or why they thought businesses should be able to make their own policies because they're private businesses, so they can segregate. It's like, did it fly? It didn't, right? It didn't fly. They had to say, no, that was wrong, just like they will with this whole mask thing, right? I don't know how long it's going to take, but until, a decent, lawyer who's bold enough to step up and do it, I don't know. So, related case, trespassing, here we go. Bell versus Maryland arose from the criminal trespass convictions of civil rights demonstrators who in 1960 held a sit-in at a Baltimore restaurant to protest its policy of racial segregation. So this is what I feel the lawyers are saying today. Well, it's the business's policy, so they have a right to say you're criminally trespassing. So it's a private business open to public accommodation, but yet, they can say, get out of my store because you don't have a mask on. So, so they're saying that's okay. So that's what they used to say for races too. They can tell you to get out. It's okay. And if you don't get out, we're going to say you're trespassing. So it says here, one of the demonstrators was 16-year-old student Robert Mack Bell. On appeal, the petitioners argued that the use of Maryland's trespassing laws to support segregation of public accommodations violated the 14th Amendment. So we can just fill that in with masks, right? On appeal, the petitioners argued that the use of Maryland's trespassing laws to support masks or separation of, people or segregation. Actually, we can just leave it as is, to support segregation of public accommodations, because that's what they're doing. Violated. Yeah, so that's what they're doing. They're using the trespassing laws to support segregation. That's exactly what they're doing today. Criminal. Court remanded case due to new discrimination laws. The demonstrators were cleared. When the case finally came before the Supreme Court, the court refused to decide whether the state's trespassing laws could be used to exclude blacks from public accommodations. The majority decision, written by Justice William J. Brennan, Jr., centered on the fact that Maryland had subsequently adopted a law making discrimination in places of public accommodation illegal, and Congress had passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. According to Brennan, there was a possibility that Maryland intended for the new law to void past convictions, and so the court remanded the case back to the Maryland Appeals Court for reconsideration. On April 9, 1965, the convictions were reversed and students were cleared of all charges. In his concurring opinion, Justice Williams O. Douglas revealed his preference that the court void the convictions outright. He cited testimony to show that the policy of segregation at the restaurant had been a simple business decision, and he asserted that the provisions of the 14th Amendment and the constitutional right to travel made such discrimination illegal. How is this not the same thing that they're doing today? Except instead of using race, they're using the masks, which is, I guess, medical segregation, religious segregation. Carl Miller said, you have to reach. That's what he said. you got to reach. If you're an American and you believe that your rights are being violated, you have to reach. Because he said in the American jurisprudence, it says that the Constitution needs to be construed in our favor. If we're the beneficiary of it, not the government. The government isn't the beneficiary of the Constitution, but we are, then that it should be construed in our favor. So, any attempts to enforce racially discriminatory policies in places of public accommodation would be similar to enforcement of racially discriminatory covenants that the court had outlawed in Shelley versus Kramer. So, there were dissenters to that as well, but I don't know how people don't see it. How do they not see it? How do the lawyers not see it? How can they sit there and say, well, it's a business and they have a right to segregate. They have a right to make policies of segregation. That's what they're saying. I wish that they would see it in the same light, that segregation is not okay, whether it's based on, no matter what it's based on. You shouldn't be able to tell a person because they don't have a specific thing on that they can't come in the store. So I know I'm preaching to the choir. I just wanted to express those thoughts though. Thanks.